Now, while we've enjoyed the warmest February on record, things are about to get an awful lot colder for one Scottish man. Richard Smith is part of a four-man team heading up to the Arctic on a 40-day expedition to retrace the steps of Scottish explorer John Rae. Now, I have to confess, I've never heard of John Rae. So, Richard, welcome to Out for the Weekend. I'm hoping you can tell me a bit more about him. Welcome to the programme. Who was John Rae? Why was he so important?
Thanks, Penny. Thanks for inviting me to the programme. Yeah, so John Rae, as you rightly say, not many people have heard of him, which is a great shame. And we're hoping to restore his rightful place in history and hopefully make him a household name, just like Captain Scott of the Antarctic, which we've all heard of. He's a Scotsman. He was born on the Orkney Islands in Stromness and trained as a surgeon at Edinburgh University. And he worked for the Hudson Bay Company in northern Canada and explored and charted and surveyed parts of the northern Arctic of Canada. And he solved two of the great mysteries of 18th century exploration. The first being that he discovered the final link of the first navigable Northwest Passage. Now, not everybody may know what the Northwest Passage is, but basically it's a sea route which had been searched for hundreds of years by many nations to sail from the Atlantic Ocean across the north of Canada to the Pacific Ocean and thereby save a journey which would normally take thousands of miles around the south tip of South America. So many nations had sought to find this passage, which was hampered by the ice in the Arctic, and Rae was the first person to actually find the first link to enable that passage to take place. That was his first great discovery, and his second great discovery was the catastrophic fate of the Sir John Franklin expedition, which left London in 1845, a Royal Navy expedition of two ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, and they went up to the north of Canada to try and find the Northwest Passage and were never heard of again or seen again, and nothing was known of them for 5 years. And Franklin went up, as did many expeditions, to try and find what had happened to them, and he actually discovered what had happened to them. And unfortunately, they'd been locked in the ice. The ships had been locked in the ice for 5 years. The 129 men on board had slowly succumbed to starvation and unfortunately had resorted to cannibalism.
Goodness. I mean, Richard, why don't we know more about John Rae? Because he does seem to have just about disappeared from the historical record. Why?
Yeah, it's actually a great travesty, and it's something that we want to address and raise awareness of. He was widely known at that time as one of the most accomplished Arctic explorers. But unfortunately, he came back to London with some rather unwelcome news, and that was, of course, that Royal Navy officers had resorted to cannibalism. And the Admiralty didn't want to hear that. Now, the fateful expedition leader, John Franklin, his wife was Lady Franklin, who was very well connected in the establishment and best friends with Charles Dickens. Between the two of them, they successfully vilified him in the press, and hence he never got the recognition that he deserved. So we're trying to put wrong right and restore him to his rightful place in history and have him recognised for the great accomplishments that he did achieve.
Well, let's come on to talk about your expedition then. What are you planning? What's the whole story?
What's the whole story? Yes. Okay. Right. Well, what we're doing is we are basically retracing Rae's final expedition of 1854. That's the one where he discovered the Northwest Passage. So it's a ski route. We'll be on skis, hauling sleds weighing up to 90 kilograms. It'll be over a distance of 650 kilometres. It should take us round about 40 days from a town called Nauyat, otherwise known in the past as Repulse Bay in northern Canada, and we'll finish at another Inuit settlement up there called Yow Haven. It will be 4 people. There'll be David Reed, who's the expedition leader. He's a Scotsman, now lives in Canada. It will be myself and a Canadian adventurer, Frank Wolfe, and Gary Tutt, who's an adventure filmmaker, because, of course, he will be filming this and producing it into a documentary following the expedition.
And how much are you trying to recreate some of how he did it? I mean, is that the point of you skiing it and dragging everything?
Yeah, there'll be some significant differences between the way that we do it. Obviously, back then, the beauty of Rae was that he travelled having learnt from the indigenous population, so he didn't have that sort of conquer mentality, such as the Royal Navy expedition led by Franklin at that time. He was a very humble man, and he learned from the Inuit the best way to live, survive and travel in the Arctic. So they would have been wearing clothing made out of seal skins, hauling big sledges between a team of men and on snowshoes. Of course, now we've got the advantages of modern technology, so we'll be wearing modern synthetic clothing, not heavy seal skins, and carrying state-of-the-art tents. Of course, back then, Rae learned from the Inuit how to build igloos, and they would have lived in igloos and also built stone houses with turf and stone to actually survive the winter, because they'd have to stay in situ for the winter. They couldn't just get lifted out, and they had to sit tight during the winter.
Wow. And what are you expecting the conditions to be like for your expedition?
Well, it is one of the most extreme environments on Earth up there. The temperatures can range as far down as -30 or even -50 degrees. So it will be stunningly beautiful, quite bleak but beautiful. We expect to see some wildlife, and it will be very, very cold. We are looking forward to meeting some of the indigenous population, the Inuit. When we set off from Nauyat, we'll be engaging with the elders there and the schools. And we've been engaging with the schools in Scotland as well. So we have the St Nicholas Primary School in Broxburn, and the Hope Primary School and Stromness Primary Schools in Orkney. And the children there, they're aged between 3 and 11, and they've all got together and had a competition to design some flags for us, and we've chosen the winners, and they'll be coming with us on the expedition. We'll be getting some good photographs of them there. All the team will sign them, and then they'll go back to the schools. And we're going to do the same for the Inuit community at Nauyat as well, and engage with the children there.
And what about your personal involvement in this, Richard? I mean, have you got previous, is it, in terms of going up to the Arctic, or have you? Is this a first for you?
No, I've got previous as well. So my history was that I was with the Royal Marine Reserves in a previous life. So we did lots of Arctic warfare training, and I've had expeditions around the world, including Greenland as well, sea kayaking or climbing or skiing.
So given you've got previous, what is going to be the challenge for you particularly of this? Which bit are you most worried about?
I wouldn't say I'm worried. I'm excited and looking forward to it. I mean, the risks that you have to be aware of course, is the environment, the temperature, but that's a managed risk. So as long as you have a good camp routine, good personal routine, you look after your digits, your fingers and toes, in case of frostbite, you wear the right clothing, that's a managed risk which we all deal with. Other risks, I mean, a remote chance of encountering a polar bear, possibly, but for that reason you'll have a bear fence around your tent at night, which if it's tripped, the fence, by any polar bears, it shoots up a huge bang, and you run out with your pots and pans and bang your pots and pans and try and scare the bear away. But I think, interestingly, I think it will be the dynamic between the team members as well. We're all very similar souls from a similar sort of background, but I've never actually met them in person, which is quite interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, but we've only met virtually, so we've spoken numerous times over the phone and Skype and email. But it'll be really great to get over to Ottawa. I fly out on the 22nd of March, and it'll be really great to put faces to the names, and I'm looking forward to that.
And when you come back safely, because I'm sure you will come back safely, what's the plan? What's the kind of legacy of this project? Yeah,
well, I mean, that's a key point, actually, Penny. It's not just about the expedition. It's actually a project. So the expedition, Retracing Rae's Route, of course, raising awareness of Rae. We'll be producing the documentary and the book, which will follow. And the book will all be about our expedition and how it ties in with what Rae actually did and the interaction with the Inuit and the locals. And we're hoping to raise awareness also for the John Rae Society. Now, Rae was born in a building called the Hall of Clestran in Stromness in Orkney, and that's unfortunately falling into disrepair. So the John Rae Society are hoping to raise funds to have that renovated and turned into an Arctic education and visitor centre. And so we're hoping to raise awareness for that as well.
Now, Richard, I've been talking all programme about everyone's favourite historical places, historical sites in the world. It doesn't just have to be Scotland, although Orkney has featured an awful lot, I have to say, and an awful lot of people's favourites. Have you got a favourite?
Probably Greenland for me, actually. I have a great,
really?
I have a great affinity for Greenland. It's a very magical place, and it's relatively untouched. You know, there's very few people live in Greenland, and it's just some remote settlements around the outside of Greenland. And all of the interior, there's nobody there. It's just a huge ice cap. So it's a great place to go and escape and explore. And there's thousands of unclimbed mountains in Greenland. And it's just great to get away from towns and cities and really escape into the wilderness.
And of course, what you're going to be doing is walking in the footsteps of history. So you're going to kind of redo history firsthand.
That's it. That's
Fantastic.
it. Yeah.
Richard, good luck. I hope you'll come back and tell us how you got on when you get back.
Absolutely. Be delighted to. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good luck with it all. I look forward to hearing more about it. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much, Penny. Oh, and I must mention as well our sponsor, Tyzo, Scotland's
we'll
outdoor
let you squeeze
equipment
that
specialist.
Be gone, be gone. Thanks, Richard.